Yo, it's ODB. This is issue 72 of MiniTruckin magazine, one of my all-time favorite issues. See the classic logo there. And the Colorado Custom Blazer we'll talk more about. This is going to round out the first 10 years, so technically 88 through 97 is 10 years, although 88 had one issue. We've, of course, went through every issue up until this point, December 9/7. Let's jump right in. Make sure you check out OLP, also known as Our Lifestyle Podcast, via any podcast app. So you got the table of contents, ChinaTown, update Project Beat to Neat, the Wheel Deal, which is the cover truck, Bill Hancock / Thomas Hancock, rest in peace, Blazer, Beyond Reality, one of my favorite trucks built. Got some cool events, including Party in the Keys, and some tech. The holiday season brings bundle of joy in the form of Bill Hancock's Ultra Clean S-Series Blazer, the Vicarious Christy Rochelle. Shutter goes to Wes Allison. Insert photo, Clint Walker from Texas Heatwave. So, I read this one a lot in my younger days. I do have a couple issues. This one was a little bit nicer copy, so this is kind of with my official full collection. Battle of the Imports. So we've seen the recurring theme here. That's Ruben Arteaga right there, the Booka. And shout out to Ruben. He also has that C1500 nonsense. That's his page. But, kind of keeping with the theme, this is the Imports doing their thing. There's a really cool feature, ChinaTown, in this issue that Clint Walker shot. Speaking of Ruben, there he is again. Newcomer. Toyota. Killer trucks. You got the Stage 1 custom ad. TSW alloy wheels. So the shop tour. These were always cool. I always like seeing the photos of like the wheels and the hoops and stuff. Especially like at Boyd. Tons of inventory. I'm sure they were making a lot of money back in those days. I don't know what the wheel world's like these days. I know a lot of people wait forever. Speaking of that, Ed Eister, shout out to Ed. He always watches these. He texted me yesterday with a story he has about Colorado Custom Wheels going back 20 years ago. And we're going to talk about it sometime on the podcast. Here you got paper cuts. A couple of the photos, again, you will see that they've reused, including right here, Chris Anders. I don't know if he still owned it at this point, but the topless Mazda, I think I mentioned it recently. They're at, I don't know, Rezo or one of the runs where it rained like hell. And clean-looking Toyota, I think. KMC switching it up there with a Tacoma. Were you guys fans of KMC wheels during this era? I mean, these weren't my favorite KMC wheels. I know they heavily advertised those bruisers on the S-10. Here you got paper cuts continued. Low glow ad. We'll see this truck a little bit later as well. Was this the truck that was recently featured? I mentioned the one thing that sticks out to me are the covers that are over the extended cab windows. Talking to Tim, shout out to Tim, NC Florida yesterday. We were texting back and forth, and we were talking about how underglow, I think we both had the same sentiment back in the day. It was kind of like, I liked it when I first got my first car, and then, from a truck perspective, neons and stuff weren't the coolest thing, but now the underglow lighting is definitely taken back off. I know DJ Mays, shout out to him, always doing those free Twitch sets. Search DJ Mays Radio. He has a connection, I think, to someone that does some of that underglow lighting. We've heard from them in the past. And I know DJ Mays was pretty cool seeing the underglow lighting inside the bed on Teal Short, his S10. Here's the update for Project Beat to Neat. Pressure washing. Tom Lutz, Paul Morton, and crew. The one bad thing about those is you didn't always get a chance to see, some of them did a little bit of tech on them, but we didn't always get to see too much because of the changes at the magazines and stuff. This was always a tech article that I liked because I had the same dash not as many features. I didn't have the tachometer and the little vent under. You know, mine was a base model. This is kind of more of a higher end. It's got the center console and stuff, but this was all stuff I kind of felt like within my wheelhouse. And I remember changing my steering wheel on my S10. Check out those floor mats. I remember changing the steering wheel. I'm sure it gave me motivation to actually see this. I had a excuse me, I forget what steering wheel it was. It was one from the local parts store, wrapped in blue, not Momo, Recaro maybe. And I had the little billet adapter. Here you can see it looks like a Hancock going on there, Colorado Custom. Just, you know, simple things, man. But there's trends, of course. But to me, that was, you know, that was the cool thing about, you know, the truck scene at that time. You know, you could get these little overlays, the dash kits and stuff. And again, that was pretty much the same dash I had. So this was a tech article that definitely appealed to me, you know, putting the foot pedal cover deals on and stuff. Mine, I don't think ever had that radio. It probably did from the factory, but not when I bought it. I think it had some aftermarket thing, but I did have that to AC control in my 94. More from your 4. So increased power, Toyota 22R-E tech article. These were always cool to me. MiniTruckin's Christmas wish list. Here you got the Tarantula. My buddy Paul and I, we were big Soundstream fans. It seemed like that's what we ran for years. Check this out. Does anybody have any of these? The binders. Here you've got, I remember they would advertise those definitely in Truckin, but look at all the, you got 2 OG stickers. You've got a bunch of issues we've already went through, including the Mini Trucks Pictorial that also has Pat Nichols' ballistic on the cover. I got that issue now thanks to Redbeard. So pretty cool stuff. I've always wanted to collect like as much stuff as I could for stuff that I was a fan of. So, you know, being that ballistic was on that cover, I had to have it. MiniTruckin magazine t-shirts and hats. You'll see that here in a minute when we look at the show coverage. Didn't see them really at a lot of shows. Kind of the same thing for magazines these days. I helped a couple years back, maybe a year and a half ago, transport some shirts for a magazine to a show, and it's tough because, you know, there's so many cool brands out there. I really don't know how much longer magazines are going to stay around. I mean, I'm not being negative, but I was at the grocery store yesterday and I was picking up the essentials, and I just happened to, I was like, I peeked over on the aisle for magazines, and truck magazines are just sitting there, you know. You know, even people that are super big enthusiasts, I know a lot of people that don't have subscriptions and don't buy magazines. They just don't want them. And it's kind of sad, but, you know, I would ask if you can, you know, support the scene. I know it was tough when All Time Low seemingly, you know, folded because a lot of us, you know, really believed in that brand. But it's not easy, especially with no little to no advertising. That definitely doesn't make it easy. Here you got some of the old school stuff. Magazine companies for a long time, speaking of that, they would, and they still do this. You'll see them at SEMA, I think still, those old hats though. I tried to get Mike to let me order one of these with the rope deal. Mike doesn't like the ropes. But you'll see at like SEMA, sometimes, I mean, I didn't see them this past year, but there'll be companies that are helping, they're kind of contracted to sell the magazines, and they'll say, hey, if you sign up for a year subscription, you know, you get a free shirt today. And that's what it kind of reminded me of. You know, this one wasn't, of course, free, but they would do shirt deals where they would try to entice people to get a subscription. They can, of course, write off all the shirts as a business cost to help them promote the mag. The Wheel Deal, very cool title. Even the big boys build mini trucks. And all-time classic. I got to say this again, rest in peace, Thomas Hancock. I remember first seeing his name in this December 97 issue. You'll see here where it talks about what is the general manager of one of the nation's most prominent billet wheel and accessory manufacturers doing building mini trucks. The answer, passing on the father's passion. to his son. And, you know, we've talked about this in the past. We've had Bill on. Bill is a great guy. We talked Billet wheel history. He knows his stuff. And one of the cleanest Blazers built, and, you know, he was basically gave this to Thomas. And Thomas, you know, was a prominent BMX guy. He had passed away, if I remember correctly, from a car accident. And you can look up RIP Thomas Hancock, just how it sounds, on Instagram and see more. But, you know, Bill helped me when I was finishing Bada Bing. You know, he went to bat, as he said on the podcast, to get, you know, a little bit of a break on the wheels, the South Beach. Here you can see, I always loved the little license plate they did. And then, of course, they got the license plate bracket. Back then, you could get, you know, a few different accessories they had. Love, love, love this rear setup. So clean. My dad had an 88 Jimmy, which is basically the Blazer. And, you know, I always thought, you know, wow, look how clean this thing is with a little bit of the tweed, the leather, the disc changer. Super sick. One thing that sticks out too, these are pretty rare. Someone could chime in, but the knockoffs, they don't make these anymore. I don't think Colorado, I'm assuming Michael and team could if someone wanted them, but those are kind of rare, I would say. Ed Eister, anybody know? Some of these names would stick out to me, like Andy Raddy, I believe is how you say it. Raddy's, R-A-D-I, upholstery. Some of those names would always stick in my mind. CGS Motorsports, we've tagged them on different things. Enjoy It Thomas, you see right there. And you know, Thomas was a great kid. Anybody that knew him, that's what they said. Here you've got the Flames, Cerati Upholstery, and then Kenny Williams of Audio Concepts, located in Garden Grove, Cali, is responsible for the Sony kicker system. Something you don't really see too much there. It looks like a tape player. And of course, they had the disc changer out back, and then they did have air. So not super low, but a little bit of movement there. And that's what I would assume. That was one thing I thought was cool, was that tank. I don't remember in the feature if that was nitrogen type tank, or if it just, you know, if it had a compressor concealed somewhere. But certainly one of the cleanest Blazers built. Bill does still own it. He mentioned that on the podcast. I know years later we did see it in coverage. Devious Customs had did some work in the back and put a bigger wheel on it. So this is one of my all-time favorite trucks, probably my top 5, top 10. Loved this feature. I think I talked about it because I posted this feature. I actually had, out of an extra issue that I had this hanging, cut out strategically, and I had it hanging in my office at work for years. This was Art and Michelle Gordon's truck. They had a couple of different rides. I think I mentioned their name. I think it came up prior. I always loved how they would do this kind of in the skateboarding mags as well, where it kind of looks like the camera reel. And then here you've got it, you know, it kind of hitting switches. It does have juice laid out, front up, front down. Beyond Reality, I always loved that it had the rear bumper on it. Had the chrome window frame, the BR. It had the little deal on top there that's chrome. Super clean. It had the rocker panels, the Hancock wheels, which Bill, when he was on, talked about the popularity of those wheels was just amazing. Here you see Beyond Reality on the cover, which tied into the feature name. Super clean engine. I'd love just to have the Mazda on the engine bay on my Mazda that clean. And then boom, look at all the tweed. You see the switch box there. Possibly vinyl or tweed on the dash. Super clean. Anybody know what happened to this truck? When I posted it, people were asking, and you know, some people said it's still in the same area. The person doesn't drive it or whatever, but I'd love to know. The other thing is, it kind of reinforces you don't have to have a huge feature. I mean, 2 pages. That's all you need. A little bit of a write-up, and boom, Shartsis nailed this one. Love also how they're kind of parked on this little gravel type road. Just a perfect setting for it. A little bit of shadow in the windshield, but hey, I'm not a professional photographer. I think it's fucking awesome. So here you've got Texas Heat Wave. Always loved the kind of the back color on this, you know, being a little bit yellow there. Just made it pop. Got some cool show coverage. The mid-shoe. Those wheels, though. Inkies, right? And, man, back in the day, those front ends look so small to me. You know, the grills and stuff on how much bigger all the stuff got. If that makes sense. But you can see the show artwork. I always like when they put that in there. It's kind of hard to go back and find the show artwork for all the old shows. I was trying to put together some, you know, at one point, and it's just not easy to find it all. Here's what I was mentioning earlier, MiniTruckin magazine. So they were set up, or this might have been one of those brands to try to get people to subscribe. I can't really tell who that is. But you can see they had shirts set up, and that's back in the day when everything was white. That banner, though, pretty cool. Think this was Caldwell's Blazer there that ended up gray and black. I think that's Herb's that ended up with the, might even have it there, the S10, or excuse me, the Camaro Dash. And then this thing, again, you see how many trucks had the Hancock wheels. Bill definitely is well respected, although he's not really in the game anymore. He lives up in the Carolinas, great dude. Well respected, a lot of people ran those wheels. I had a chance, I'm going to my buddies later today, I had a chance to buy a set before I got the Mazda. I wish I had. Here's Bill Hancock's van. I remember my old friends, they saw it at Nopi 98, 97. And for those that don't know, the rear windows are painted on. It's a amazing van. I don't know where if Bill still has it, but you know, you think about some of those days with Craig Elder and some of the other guys. We looked at the van issue recently, which I wanted to correct myself. The green van I showed in one of those recent flip-throughs, that's not the one that turned into Craig Elder's orange one. It was a different one that did. It gets a little confusing, but I was in a mini truck / car club in the 80s and 90s Facebook group, and someone chimed in. Here you've got Duckman. His famous Nissan Hardbody would eventually run boulders. We've had Duck on before. The killer Mazda is super clean. Love the graphics, lowness. Those are, I believe, Colorado wheels. And then topless. Boom. Dude, just epic times. I mean, literally some of these pages are etched in my mind because I looked at this one so much. Here's Angelic Revenge. So maybe not our favorite deal. I told Mike he could really take some notes on this one and make his Mazda next level. Like if he could kind of do some interior deal like this, and then maybe even if he could get a trailer behind it, you know, not making fun of this, but I think he could definitely take it to the next level. And shout out, this was, you see Joe Greaves shot it. He liked shooting some crazy stuff. Bob and Charlotte Hoy. This was West Palm Beach. Chime in. Do you guys think Project Bananarama Hammock could handle some styling cues from this? You can see, of course, the feature tied into the name of the vehicle, which was always cool. Tons of accessories. Again, just making a little bit of fun here, but definitely a cool vehicle. The cool thing is, I appreciate about it is I owned an Amigo, and there weren't a lot of Amigos featured. So pretty cool stuff here. I remember going to car audio shows with my buddy Paul, and you'd see guys that would have like in their display in the trunk of the car would be like a little deal that's framed that would show the different gauge wire they ran to the different components and speakers and whatnot. Here you've got lengthened wire for 0.5 volt loss. I've wired my Lincoln with some good cable I bought on Amazon, kind of like some, Paul calls it welding wire, I think, once it gets to a certain gauge, but I can't wait to have that thing laced up with some compressors. I texted Jimmy the other day, I said, man, I gotta get this thing bagged, dude. Okay, so check this out. Pimpin' Santa. Ho, ho, ho. Ho, ho, ho. White Train. She got reds here. Riding around. If you ever see someone's vehicle that you know, or if it was yours, chime in. I appreciate it. It's always cool to see. You know, you're getting old when the kids chime in and go, hey, that was my dad's truck. I'm like, oh, man, I'm getting old. Here's Hardbody Minis presents the Spring Nationals. And of course, not being all color, you end up with some black and white. So Mike Slade here and some good show coverage. Again, I like the background change for some of the art, for some of the layouts. Just gave it a little bit different dynamic. Look at that topless Mini. So many of them. Here you got the truck body parts. You know, always nice little advertising with the chicks there. I'm sure that helped draw people in. And then you got Eastwood, different products. Labor Day weekend, hopefully you guys are having a good time. Labor Day here, of course, here in the U.S. We got folks around the world, around the globe that that chime in here, which I appreciate. I remember these high-tech aluminum products now offers bolt-on billet wiper units. Wanted to work on my Lincoln a little bit this weekend, but just didn't get a chance. My Lincoln mechanic, today's his born day, so I think they're going to be chilling. Tomorrow I'm off work, which don't know what I'm going to get into yet, but it's probably going to be recreational. I'm going to wrap this one up here in a minute. You got the sketch pad. Really nice work there on that van. Isuzu space cabs on the rise. Feels like I just went through this one, but I guess not. Again, we're rounding out the first 10 years, if you can believe it, with this issue. Technically, 88 to end of 97 is 10 years. And I can't wait to go through, really hitting a stride here. You know, just doing these in between the normal editing. I put out another video for the wiring in my garage. So if you can watch those, you know, if you're at work and you can let these just run all the way through, you know, it helps us. I'm trying to get my minutes watched to, I forget what it needs to be, 4,000 or something. I don't know. Or not even 3/4 of the way there. Okay, so here is Georgia State Nat. So here's the S10 I think I talked about a minute ago in the neon ad. You see tons of Nopi stuff back there. You know, this is back when you could seemingly, you know, everything was available. It was easy to buy everything at shows or different places. Here you see Figment. We saw that recently. You got the triple axle Ranger. You see Out of Control Minis there, the S10, the other S10. And then here's another one of Figment. You could imagine with the engine being in the rear, how he was able to do. I've never seen the truck without that cover there, so I don't know really what it looks like, but it was pretty cool. He had all neons and whatnot. There's the S10 with the S10 bed behind it. See, Mike could do that with the Mazda, man. And then he can make a grill back here. Maybe do the aquarium tailgate. I mean, Mike said he's a mini trucker, man. He needs to step it up. Here's Ultra Images. I started calling them back in the day, ordering parts from them. Wish I still had my old Billet license plate frame from them. But again, Tim got me squared away. He sent me a link over to Billet Specialties. They still make them with the lights in them. And then this was something different. Party in the Keys. So Joe Greaves went down to Key West area. And Isuzus were super popular, still are in the state. One you don't see very often, just sitting on wires with that chrome fender trim. And then here was talking about the new managing editor. Not the editor, but the managing editor, Tom Lutz. And then showing kind of one of his newer projects there. Pretty cool. And then you had your advertising index. It kind of just made it simple to get to what you may have saw. What do you guys think of this issue? Classic? I'm a huge fan. I really appreciate all the support, all the likes, the comments, the streams on OLP. We're definitely on the rise. The page continues to blow up. We appreciate you guys. Have a safe weekend and stay on the rise. We got you. Peace.